the 15 other Big 12 athletic directors got together and said, we hate that Brendan Sorsby gets to play. We don't want to play Texas Tech. If he's playing, we're out. Isn't that kind of a pansy move? This is a different sounding Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. We will start. I've kind of had a change of heart on this whole Brendan Sorsby deal. The more dramatic we've gotten about this, the worse. Can I just start? We have Georgia football players driving 123 miles an hour drunk and playing their next football game, endangering the lives of people. But we want to hang a 19-year-old kid who bet a couple $100 and then hurt the Big 12. Why does the Big 12 want to hurt itself? That's my question. We will start with Brendan Sorsby and how I have evolved, and the Big 12 coaches and ADs have not, how I've evolved on this subject and whether or not the Big 12 is going to punish Texas Tech and punish Sorsby themselves. And then we'll go right into an interview with Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC, where I want to juxtapose how I feel now, 48 hours removed from the news, versus how I felt right after the news dropped. Originally, it was a gut punch, like, oh, college football is dead. But no, I was a dramatic idiot for saying that. Why are we supporting, like 1984, George Orwell, read the book? Why are we supporting Big Brother? Why are we all lauding the NCAA right now instead of a Big 12? Do you understand? Can I read you some examples of how long we've been skirting the NCAA with the government for years? Like, oh, no, this kid bet on. You weren't mad when a Georgia football player drunk drove 123 miles an hour and could have killed a family. Why weren't you mad? Or when at Baylor there were over 200 plus alleged sexual assaults coming from the football team. No one said, oh, we don't want to play Baylor. I personally think drunk driving or sexual assault is a whole lot worse than $300 of bets. Even Nick Saban, 8 years ago at a press conference, said, yeah, I had this kid, 19-year-old at Michigan State. I don't know, it was like drunk driving or something. Like, thank God for second chances. I gave it. Do you want him on the street or do you want him in our football program? Because in our football program, he became an NFL player, All-American, has 7 kids and a beautiful wife now, and is a coach himself who owns a company. That's what we want, right? We want to better our players. You weren't mad. No one was boycotting Trinidad Chambliss, and the government stepped in and helped Trinidad Chambliss. Nobody was boycotting Texas when their head coach, Steve Sarkisian, it was at USC. No one's boycotting Texas or Steve Sarkisian. When 10 years ago at USC, he was at a company event, mixed medication and alcohol, and had to apologize for his inappropriate behavior in front of God and everybody. Stephen Godfrey tweets, this is such a horrible moment for college sports. If you agree, use code CFBmedia26 for half off your first parlay. We're mad at a kid. We're mad at Texas Tech. The Big 12's mad at itself. When the SEC didn't get ticked off at Ole Miss, the SEC didn't get ticked off Diego Pavia. All the coaches said, yeah, we win again. They love us. We can do whatever we want. And now the Big 12 gets a sliver of that treatment. You're being programmed to believe the Big 12 is the bad guy. That's incorrect. That's backwards. I'll give you a couple examples here. Trinidad Chambliss, 2026 Ole Miss. The state court breach of contract loophole where good old boy down the street, the judge, Ole Miss guy, said you should let Trinidad play. Texas Tech, at the very least, had a judge from Tarrant County, 300 miles away, a guy who went to Houston, got a degree from Houston, a rival of Texas Tech. They didn't grab the dude from down the street. I mean, the first guy was the dude from down the street, had a Texas Tech degree. He recused himself. So a judge from a rival school said, you know what? I don't think a $200, $300 mistake from when you were 19 should forfeit $5 million. I want you to think about this. Close your eyes. I don't care if you're driving. Close your eyes. And you, Dan, made a mistake when you were 19 years old. You're now on the verge at 25, at 30, at 40 of a $5 million contract. And they say, oh, Dan, you actually, you bought a lottery ticket when you were 19. It was across state lines where it was it's kind of fishy operation here. Dan, I'm sorry. You're going to lose $5 million. You'd be devastated. You'd fight it tooth and nail. You'd celebrate. You'd jump for joy for a ruling like this. If you put yourself in this scenario, what would you would fight? Your friends would fight. Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech, as an organ, they are fighting for Brendan Sorsby. Aren't they just doing what you would do? Cam Newton, ignorant athlete. Yeah, it comes out in the middle of 2010. He's probably being paid, and that his dad knew about it and was asking schools for money. But because the NCAA couldn't prove that the Cam Newton guy was in the middle of it, they said, hey, according to the government, according to legislation, the student athlete had no explicit knowledge of parents' financial scheme. Weird. That doesn't sound right. But Auburn got away with it. Todd Gurley, self-reporting, immediately self-suspending Todd Gurley and applying for immediate reinstatement via an unaware market value mitigation defense. Gurley was selling his own memorabilia. You weren't mad when he got off scot-free. You didn't want to boycott him, Big 12 athletic directors. A.J. McCarron, independent NIL loophole. What if we create the A.J. McCarron documentary? I can make some money off that, right, guys? And had a third-party corporate investor, an independent investor. Well, when the NCAA caught it, we said, educational and independent cinematic production loophole. We created a loophole. You didn't boycott playing A.J. McCarron in Alabama, did you? Devontae Fields, man. Clean slate transfer. Defensive player of the year at TCU. I remember Devontae Fields. After a domestic violence dispute and arrest, he went the JUCO washing machine loophole. If I transfer to Trinity Valley Community College, which isn't NCAA, it's NJCAA, then I can go there. And once I go there, I'm wiped clean. All my sins are washed away. Transfers right back into the NCAA, goes to Texas A&M. They signed him the next season. Meaning he had, I left the NCAA. Since I left, I get a clean slate, right? You didn't boycott Texas A&M. We've been skirting the rules. We've been trying to get around what's right for decades in college football. Now you want to be moral? Sexual assault scandals. Nobody. Jerry Sandusky was doing the most I hope that guy rots in prison. I know he will. Was doing the most deplorable things you can imagine to children. And no one said, let's boycott playing Penn State. Now, the Big 12 athletic directors want to get together and say, we want to boycott playing Texas Tech. Do you understand how bad of a look that is? Do you understand the pansy level that puts the Big 12 at right now? When the SEC gets away with something, their coaches run to the rescue. We did it again, boys. Let's keep taking advantage of these rules. But the one time the Big 12 wins, its own conference implodes on itself. You didn't say it about Penn State. You didn't say it about Baylor. You didn't say it about Georgia. You didn't say this about Auburn or Texas A&M. But now one of your own gets a break. Because a 19-year-old kid made a $300 decision, and now you want to strip $5 million off of him. The penalty, the punishment does not match the crime. Suspending a guy for 2 games for 8 quarters of college football, which sucks. I don't want to lose 2 games of my senior year. Suspending a guy for 2 games, 8 quarters. Probably about equal to $300 of gambling. You're just not ready for that conversation, maybe. Coming up, Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. This is how I feel today. But a couple days ago, I was a bit more fiery. I was a bit more against this whole thing. Let's get into it. Locked On Big 12. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. Every style, every home. Wayfair is exactly where I go when it comes to my patio. I bought a house a year and a half ago, and one of the last things on my list was the patio. I was like, all right, I got the walls and the couch, and Wayfair was great for those. But then finally I was like, okay, I need to fix the patio. That's where Wayfair comes in. Outdoor seating, patio lighting, grills, rugs, decor, storage, one-stop shop for creating an outdoor space that fits your style and your budget. If I were recommending one thing to a friend, I'd be the outdoor seating set. Super quality. It's one of those that you buy it and you feel like, okay, yes, this is sturdy. I can sit on it. It won't break. I can leave it in the weather. It won't break. That's what I love. The quality, the price is nice, but the quality of product from Wayfair is really what drives it home for me. Patio season is here and the deals won't last. Head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. WAYFAIR.com. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home with Wayfair.
Texas Tech star Brendan Sorsby granted a temporary injunction against the NCAA, clearing him to play for the Red Raiders in 2026. Drake, when you hear this ruling, just what's your initial reaction?
My first reaction is, as the news unfolds, it gets wilder and wilder. The Big 12, according to Ross Dellenger, has athletic directors now saying they want to boycott playing Texas Tech next fall and are looking for ways out of playing the Red Raiders. That feels dramatic, but I think it's... So, Gordy, when I first got this news, I thought my heart kind of sunk. I thought, this is the death of college football. This is the moment. If there's one piece you can say, oh, now we really know. Like Trinidad Chambliss, we were climbing up that ladder of, yeah, a judge steps in and the government says, let the guy play. But I don't think anybody freaked out about eligibility. You're like, okay, he's a great quarterback, and I want Trinidad Chambliss to succeed in the SEC and ultimately the NFL. This isn't a, hey, I want a sixth year. This is I screwed up. And I bet on my team 40 times when I was there. I didn't just bet on my team. I bet on my college basketball team in Indiana. I looked across the room and I said, hey, yo, Sean, I got your 12.5 receiving yards over tonight. I looked across the room and I said, hey, Darius, when you guys play West Virginia in basketball next week, I got your money line. You don't do me wrong. That guy's going to play college football with little to no reprimand. And there's where I take issue with the government stepping in, overruling the NCAA, and us not having a blanket of rules. The NFL with Roger Goodell, they would say instantly, hey, you bet on games, you're not playing in the NFL. There's not one human being alive associated with the Big 12, Texas Tech, the NCAA, that can look at a college football player and say, hey, you did a bad thing. In order to take accountability, you can't play. We have skirted around this, and Pandora's box is open. Now, Gordy, Everybody, I grew up in Arkansas and a huge Razorback fan. And we would spend every weekend that Arkansas played LSU or Auburn. It was always, oh, there's probably some bag man over there slipping another 100,000 to Cam Newton. That was always the rhetoric. Because anytime Arkansas lost, it was never because we were bad. It was because somebody else was paying players. And you've now had coaches. I had a conversation with Archie Manning a few months ago, who Archie was like, man, I was getting paid more at Ole Miss than I was my first Saints contract. It was just hilarious. And that kind of stuff has happened in college football for a long time. We've been kind of a corrupt society in college football. But a moment like this that's been brought to light in front of God and everybody, and the government steps in and overrules the overlords of college football, that's an ultimate bad thing. I don't mind Texas Tech doing everything they can, but now that the government steps in, I don't like it.
Yeah, and the thing that I guess just bugs me here is if he's the third string tight end, we're not even talking about this. Like he would have been ruled ineligible, and that would have been that. And that's what kind of bugs me when you think back a couple years ago to the guys at Iowa State that got busted for gambling. Their eligibility was taken away. And they got like $2,000. I mean, it wasn't anything compared to what Sorsby did. I think what sucks most about this is they're trying to use the sympathy of the addiction card here, which I think is completely irrelevant to the case. Like the comparison I made is if I go out and kill somebody with my car today, and then I get the judge to rule, hey, look, we're going to use him as an example for why driving bad is. We're going to let him off the hook here, but we're going to send a message that driving erratically is bad. Like, no, there has to be a punishment. There has to be a consequence for doing the bad thing. We can get him all the help he wants for the addiction and all that. That's fine. But letting him immediately play football and the stupid line of, what was it? Irreparable harm?
Yep,
irreparable injury? Like, what a crock of crap, excuse me.
It is imminent and irreparable injury is the quote from the judge, and that injury is strictly financial. What he is saying, and Gordy, that's maybe a crazier degree of this, and maybe the craziest degree now is schools boycotting playing Texas Tech. Imagine if they played 7 games next year because certain Big 12 schools said, we're not playing them. That's what's being threatened by other athletic directors. That's a monument. I've never heard of that in college sports. That's a monumental report from Dellenger today. But that verbiage of injury, irreparable injury, is $5 million. And as much as the crux of this argument was about mental health for Sorsby, and after I got caught, I went to rehab. 2 weeks after I got caught, I went to rehab. I was there for 35 days. I did it. I'm clean. I regret it. I'm sorry. Let me play. The judge in this case, the original judge, recused himself, a Texas Tech grad. The new guy steps in, got degrees from Baylor and Texas A&M. He knows college football. He knows the weight of this. And his words, in essence, were, the reason I'm doing this is because if I don't, that kid loses $5 million. And I can't take $5 million out of his hands for what he did 40 times in 2022 at Indiana 4 years ago. He regrets that greatly. And so I'm not going to strip him of $5 million. That would be irreparable. Yeah, Gordy, it would be irreparable if you told me I was getting $5 million tomorrow and then took it away from me a week later. No doubt. That is pretty irreparable. But if there are stakes to this, if there are not consequences to my actions, then where do we stop? Where do we trouble? There's a kid at Florida right now, or a kid at NC State, or a kid at Boise State who's a wide receiver. Like, I bet on my team 60 times. Sorsby's got rookie numbers, and I'm going to be able to play now. He can come out publicly. He can post his bet slips if he wants to, and he's still going to play college football next year because the precedent's been set.
Yeah, I mean, there's rules to follow. I mean, that's what's stupid about this is, yes, $5 million in NIL is one thing, but like, I think of it back to a guy who signs an endorsement deal, who's running college track, but signs an endorsement deal with Nike or something. In that deal, Nike will say, you are representing us, and if you break this, and this rule, the contract's null and void. And that's what this NIL deal should be. This sanctimonious crud about like, oh, I'll be taking $5 million out of his pocket. He broke the rule. He did the bad thing. You're not the bad guy. He is. And that's what I think is so absurd here. But again, we go back to Cody Campbell and the big money that Texas Tech has invested in all this. And I even wonder, Drake, was there maybe a caveat in the verbiage? You know, with a lot of these, they're not pay for play. So you can't say as long as he plays for Texas Tech, plays quarterback. But I think some of the verbiage of some of these deals are as long as he's enrolled at Texas Tech or something like that. So I'm wondering if maybe there was a deal where he's going, hey, we got a signed deal. You got to pay me whether I play football or not.
Yeah, I know Texas Tech was fighting for that because the last thing they wanted to figure out was at the end of this, hey, Sorsby can't play, but the contracts are already listed. The verbiage wasn't kosher enough. You've got to pay him. That would have been disastrous for Cody Campbell and company. And I think, Gordy, at some level, and Joey McGuire can't say this, Cody Campbell can't say this. None of the power brokers at Texas Tech or in the Big 12 can say this. They full well regret taking Brendan Sorsby. They wish he would have gone with Kiffin to LSU. They wish he would have gone to Florida. They regret taking Brendan Sorsby. They didn't have time to get to know the kid. He was on campus 2 months. It was hello, hey, how you doing? Let's settle you into our system. When they found out, oh, you're going to rehab for 35 days. Oh, we're spending $5 million on what could be a dud. And hindsight's always 20/20. Obviously, the cliche is correct. If you can go back, Texas Tech takes any other route to avoid this and Brendan Sorsby. Gordy, they've known him 2 months. McGuire is fighting for a kid. Like, I don't know this guy. I just met him, and now I am at the podium screaming for the court to let him play. I don't even know his care. I can't vouch for the kid. He's been at Indiana and Cincinnati, not my program. And this is the modern era of college sports where now, because in the butterfly effect, because Texas Tech took Brendan Sorsby, Gene Taylor, this is from the Dellenger report. Gene Taylor, the Kansas State athletic director, said, we've had some serious conversations about it in terms of not playing Texas Tech. And listen to this. He said, there is still a lot to be discussed. We aren't scheduled to play them this year. They're not even playing them, but it's something we have to look at from a college sports perspective. This is greater than the Big 12. And then he said, this is effing BS. It's just as blunt as an athletic director can put it. This is effing BS. I think everyone involved, maybe Sorsby included, is probably thinking that today.
We continue our conversation with Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. This is Locked On SEC, and I'm trying not to be a hypocrite here, Drake. I mean, you mentioned, he could have been at LSU, he could have been in Florida, and me as an SEC guy, would I be sitting here? What would be my take if this were having a direct effect on the SEC? And I like to think I would still have the same line that this dude did something that, look, it's a very simple rule. You don't bet on the sport, Drake. I mean, like it's a very simple rule that we adhere to across all sports, professional and collegiate. So in just my opinion, like, I don't know, like, how are we at a point where we have, I think it was Dan Wetzel said 8.7 billion people on one side of this. And he said one judge on the other side. It's one judge and the Lubbock, Texas Tech faithful. But still, like, how do we have so many people on one side of this thing?
Well, Gordy, I want Texas Tech to win as the host of Locked On Big 12. The same way I want Cincinnati, the same way I want Arizona State, the same way I want any of those 16 teams to win. I want Texas Tech to win. And when this ruling came down, the initial reaction wasn't, oh, good, they got their quarterback. It was, oh, no, this is bad for college football. And I think Joey McGuire, again, he can't say it. I think a lot of those fans in Lubbock, they can't say it, but they understand and respect. That's not a mecca of college football. This isn't we've been doing it our way in a bad way and winning and we're bullies. No, Texas Tech is figuring out how to win. Their fans don't want to kill college football. It's that perspective of, hey, if not us, this would have happened at Florida. If not us, this would have happened at Virginia Tech. If not us, it would have happened at USC. And some other kid would have been granted an injunction for the same thing, and it would benefit a Big Ten team, an ACC team. So if we have the opportunity to skirt the rules a little bit, it might not feel good, but we're going to go do that. And maybe the biggest and most important point that you've made on the whole deal that is frustrating to me, and I hope it's frustrating to Texas Tech fans and SEC fans, is if I get hired by a company, I get hired by KPMG, and when I sign my contract at KPMG, it says you must eat green food coloring induced eggs every day for lunch. I read that in the contract. I sign that. On my third week, I have bacon for lunch. I get fired. I've been fired for clear cause. My contract said, as weird as it might be, as much as you might not like it, I've got to do this thing. I signed the contract. It says that. If I breach that, if I don't do that, that's grounds for me being fired. The government can't step in and say, hey, mentally, he didn't really want to eat green eggs that day. No, I signed that contract. That's what we're going through with Brendan Sorsby. You signed a contract saying you wouldn't do this thing. You immediately did that thing. And even if it's 4 years later, there's a statute of limitations that shouldn't expire on accountability.
Yeah, and you said signed contract. We're not even talking NIL. We're talking literally his scholarship to play football at Texas Tech says you got to adhere to these rules. And just to bring a big picture, Drake, I mean, the NCAA has sets of rules, and we all agree to follow them, and yet it just feels like what's happening here is we agree to follow them until we don't. And we're seeing individual schools decide, you know what, we don't really like that rule. We're going to skirt it. And we saw it with overruling that got Diego Pavia eligible last year. We just saw it this year with Trinidad Chambliss being eligible. We saw in Knoxville, a Knoxville judge say, you know what, Joey Aguilar, you make a good case, but I can't rule in favor of you. So how do we fix this? How do we get to a point where we're not constantly saying, you know what, NCAA, I like your rules until ones I don't like, and I'm just going to have a local judge overrule you?
Well, you don't appoint me commissioner, but you appoint someone else commissioner and let them be you. Chris Gordy becomes college ball commissioner, and I want to be in the brain trust because the NFL's got this figured out. If you bet $100 on your team to win, you're suspended for a season. You're done. And there are going to be Texas Tech fans and some NFL fans and fans of people that dissent this like, well, it didn't help his team win. It didn't help his team lose. Integrity of the game is not expired. Well, again, rules. Those green eggs at lunch didn't help your team win or lose. They're the rules you signed up for. That's accountability. For me, if I get to take over tomorrow, if you put a dime on college sports, if you're betting on the basketball team down the hall, if you're betting on the softball team over on the diamond, if you're betting on your football team, you're done for a year. No getting around. NFL, same thing. No getting around it. No like, oh, well, this judge. Nope. I don't care what that judge said. I told you you're done for a year. The addendum I'd give, it's in your hands. The app is right there. Or you're offshore Puerto Rico or your family or these kids are going to find a way. And it does nothing. If I bet $500 on the ponies at the Belmont Stakes, it doesn't change my show. If Brendan Sorsby bets $500 on the ponies at Belmont Stakes, doesn't change his college football program. If you want to put $100 on Victor Wembanyama to win Defensive Player of the Year on FanDuel, I did that. I'm not going to tell you not to. If you wanted to venture out and say, hey, gambling's this thing, say weed 15 years ago, you're done forever. You never play again, you smoked weed. We've lessened the ruling there. Gambling, if you want to bet on the ponies, go bet on the ponies. But the second it crosses over into college sports, you are done, period, no exceptions.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I'm with you on that. I mean, again, Pete Rose, this was one of the biggest topics of debate, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, but he was booted from the sport because he was betting on sports.
Gordy, Pete Rose wasn't betting on his buddy's playoff props. He was like, oh, big one in the we got a huge game on Tuesday. I got you with 2 base hits. That's where I try to draw the line in this. I'm so confused how Sorsby's looking at his teammates in the locker room, betting on their player props, and we're letting that guy play.
Yeah. Last thing on this, I mean, when you look at again, you mentioned a couple times this Yahoo's report is pretty interesting because what if Abilene Christian comes out and says, you know what, we're not playing you? What if Houston comes out and says, we're not playing you? I mean, I think there is maybe a precedent to be set here. If everybody else in college football thinks this is absurd, can they all take a stand and say, we're not playing you?
Yeah, this is effing BS from the Kansas State athletic director. It's just the most Manhattan, Kansas, I'm an athletic director thing to say. Yeah, do they put their money where their mouth is? Do they really chase this? And I hope the answer is no, because I don't think Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas would say, hey, we're not playing Ole Miss. They let the quarterback play. We're not playing Ole Miss. I don't think that Kalen DeBoer at Alabama would say, well, fine, then we're not playing Vanderbilt. Again, we've all accepted that college sports since the dawn of time have been predicated on skirting the rules or trying to figure out a way to take advantage of them. And in this case, backing away from Texas Tech because of one player, because of the fourth best quarterback from the Big 12 last year. I didn't think he deserved to be a 5-star in the transfer portal anyway. If you're going to back down from that competition because of this situation, that I think reflects more poorly on the Big 12 than these ADs realize today. The best thing they can do is say, hey, look, spot the ball. We'll play whoever, whenever, wherever, and the legislators will figure this out in the offseason. We'll figure this out at media days. Otherwise, we're going to play whoever's in front of us. That should be the rhetoric. I think this almost the hero mentality of, oh, we'll be the ones to stand up for what's right. We're not going to play them. Sounds more scared than it does anything else. I'd back off of that pretty quick from a PR standpoint if I'm Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, communicating to your athletic directors and coaches.
Well, the NCAA will have a chance to appeal this, and there's some out there who think maybe common sense will prevail here, that maybe there will be an appeal that overturned and said, you know what, look, we can't let this happen. So we'll see. Plenty of time to go before the season gets here. He is Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. Chris Gordy here, Locked On SEC. Drake, great to do this, man. And let's do this in a couple weeks and talk some actual ball. How's that sound?
Yeah, man. Look, again, born and raised, Valonia, Arkansas. I know there's the whole facade of he hates the SEC. I grew up in it. I think it is the quintessential tradition of college football is still alive in a Saturday in Fayetteville, Arkansas, or Athens, Georgia, and you can't lose that. So I'm a proponent of what happened off the field. That's a different story. But on the field, I'm always a proponent of college football at its finest. That's where you find it in the SEC a lot of Saturdays. So happy to do this, Gordy. We'll hop on here again soon.
Yeah, and we'll both agree that we hate the Big Ten. So there's that.
Correct. Those pansies up north.